Meghan Markle is stepping back into the spotlight. But this time, the stakes are very different. Because on the surface, everything looks like it's finally falling into place. New projects, new appearances, a clear move back into Hollywood. But behind all of that, there's a growing risk that almost nobody is talking about. And if this goes wrong, it won't just be a setback. It could undo everything she's trying to rebuild. For years, Meghan Markle has been one of the most talked about public figures in the world, not just because of her work, but because of the constant spotlight, the criticism, and the ongoing tension surrounding her every move. So stepping back into acting now isn't just a career decision, it's a statement. It's a signal that she's ready to re-enter an industry that she once left behind. And at the same time, she's not just appearing on screen, she's also building influence behind the scenes through production, partnerships, and media projects. On paper, this looks like a smart, calculated comeback, but here's the problem. This kind of comeback comes with pressure that most people completely underestimate. Because right now, Meghan Markle is no longer just another actress trying to land a role. She's a global figure. And that changes everything. It means expectations are no longer normal, they're extreme. Every performance, every appearance, every decision is being watched and judged, which leads to the first major risk. She no longer has the luxury of being average. In a normal situation, an actor can take a role, perform well enough, and continue building their career. But in her case, good enough won't be enough. If the performance is seen as anything less than exceptional, it won't just be ignored, it will be criticized, analyzed, compared to everything she's done in the past, and more importantly, compared to the narrative that already surrounds her. That's the trap, because once expectations reach that level, even a small misstep can turn into a much bigger story. And this is exactly why moments like this matter. Because what looks like a simple comeback is actually a high-stakes gamble. So if you're into breakdowns like this, where we go beyond the headlines and expose what's really at play, take a second to subscribe and like the video. Because these kinds of shifts, most people don't even notice them until it's too late. But that's only part of the problem. The second risk is something that often destroys public figures quietly: overexposure. Right now, Meghan Markle is appearing in multiple spaces at once: acting, media production, public appearances, brand-related activity. And while that might seem like momentum, it can quickly turn into saturation. Because the more visible someone becomes, the more opportunities people have to form opinions. And not all of those opinions will be positive. In fact, the more frequently someone appears in the public eye, the easier it becomes for audiences to feel fatigue, to feel like they've seen too much. And once that happens, perception begins to shift, not because of one big mistake, but because of repeated exposure. That's where things start to get dangerous. And then there's the third risk, the one that sits underneath everything: narrative control. No matter how carefully a move is planned, public perception is not controlled by one person. It's shaped by media coverage, public opinion, and ongoing conversations. And in Meghan Markle's case, that narrative has been complicated for years. There are people who strongly support her, and there are people who strongly criticize her, which means every move she makes enters an environment that is already divided. So even when something positive happens, it doesn't always stay positive. It gets interpreted, reframed, sometimes even turned into something completely different. And that's the challenge, because building a comeback in a neutral environment is one thing, but building a comeback in a divided environment is something else entirely. Now, here's where everything comes together, because when you combine high expectations with increasing visibility and limited control over the narrative, you get a situation that is incredibly fragile. It might look strong from the outside, but underneath, it depends on everything going right. If the project lands perfectly, if the audience responds well, if the media coverage stays balanced, then this move could work. And not just work, it could reposition her completely. But if even one of those elements slips, the impact could be immediate. A single underwhelming performance, a wave of negative headlines, a shift in public sentiment, and suddenly the entire comeback starts to look different. Not like a strategic return, but like a miscalculation. And that's the risk that makes this moment so important. Because this isn't just about one role or one project. It's about what this phase represents. It's about whether Meghan Markle can redefine how she's seen, or whether the existing narrative becomes even stronger. And the truth is, both outcomes are still possible. If this works, it becomes a turning point, a moment where control shifts back in her favor, where the focus moves from controversy to capability, from headlines to results. But if it doesn't, it won't just slow things down, it will reinforce the doubts that already exist. And once that happens, changing perception becomes even harder. So while this move might look like a confident step forward, it's also one of the riskiest decisions she's made in a long time. Because in a situation like this, there's very little room for error, and everything depends on how this next chapter plays out. The question is no longer whether Meghan Markle is making a comeback. The real question is whether this comeback will hold or collapse under the weight of its own expectations.